think it looks okay. Saturday. I have not done a Saturday live in so long. I'm just wiping my lens. I realized it doesn't look very good. I think that's a little better. Hello. Hi, thanks for joining. I know, I'm adjusting. Hello. Is this bright enough? It looks so dark. Hi from Medford. Hello from Medford. Where is Medford? I don't know where that is. What state is that in? Medford. Is this sound okay? I shouldn't have. Medford. Well, I'm gonna guess. New Jersey? No. Let's see. Oregon? Medford, Oregon. Interesting. All right, hello. I'm going to get started in just a second. Happy Saturday. Thank you for joining. So much news this week. Oh my gosh. Hi. Yeah, it was a pretty insane news week. Obviously, we had the Queen. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the reaction of the Queen. We'll talk a little bit about the southern border. It's hilarious what's happening right now in DC. And we'll just chat and hang. I think that will be fun. I just got your notification. Okay, cool. I'm glad you got it. That makes me feel good that people are getting it. It is very dark in here right now, and I don't know why. So I apologize. I have a new light, and I don't know. Okay, there I am. So, yeah, I have to say, I did not know that much about, it does? Oh, okay, thank you. I did not know that much about Queen Elizabeth. I know some people that really simp over the royal family. I'm just not one of them. Obviously, I know who Queen Elizabeth is. I know about the monarchy. I know all of those things. I just didn't know that much about her. I didn't know that much about life or anything for that matter. From Wisconsin? Is that what you're saying? I didn't know that much. So when I learned the news of her passing, I decided to, do a little research. A lot of people were posting things about her. So I decided, I should learn who she is. This is a big moment in history. And I was so surprised. She's such an incredible lady. Served for 70 years. Took this on at 21, gave this incredible speech at 21 years old about how she was going to serve her country and basically dedicate herself to her people. She had zero political power. She was sort of just a symbol of tradition and I think a symbol of unity and keeping people together. She did a Christmas address every year. She did where she talked to her people, and she has a very humble, very down to earth, very matronly way of talking, even when she was younger. She gave a big talk. The Queen actually passed away in 1985, then went zombie. Okay. Yeah, I see a lot of conspiracy people saying that she actually passed away a year ago or 2 years ago. Pretty crazy. Anyway, just an incredible woman. It's really cool to watch how much respect the people have. Even the people that don't necessarily agree with the monarchy and that whole thing, they have a lot of respect for her, and she was a sort of a symbol of tradition and comfort. She gave a big talk to the people right at the beginning of the pandemic and said, we're going to get through this, and it was just a really inspiring message of hope, all these things. Anyway, I'm not trying to simp for the queen, but what I'm saying is I was so shocked at how many people were kind of celebrating her not being around anymore and celebrating her passing. And I'm thinking to myself, I just learned about her. What do they not like about her? And it really is kind of scary, the reason why people are sort of like celebrating or are happy that she passed away, because it's nothing that she did personally. There's nothing that she personally did wrong. She is a symbol for them of the West, of colonialism, of, what the the British government did a long time ago before she was even born. And that to me is so completely scary. Um, it's almost like how they are in the USA. It's how they're still angry over things that happened 200 years ago. They're not angry about things that are happening today. Well, they are actually, but it's the wrong things. She was a symbol of crazy cat ladies. No! Actually, I learned that she really liked corgis. So, fun fact, she wasn't a cat lady, she was a corgi lady. But she was just a really interesting lady, and I think it's so sad because I'm seeing a lot of people, a lot of women my age, really bash her and celebrate her passing, but they don't really know anything about her, and they're missing out on what a time. How is everyone? Hi. They're really missing out on kind of I think the lessons and what an inspiration she could be, and she was also just a symbol of grace and elegance, and we're missing that so much right now in our culture, and it's really sad to me, and it's kind of scary how you can celebrate someone's passing so much and dislike them so much, but not for anything that they actually did, but for what they symbolize in your mind and your warped view of what the world is and what the West is. And it's mind blowing. I even saw a tweet that was connecting her to the slave trade, the trans-American slave trade, which happened a few hundred years ago before she was even born. And they were connecting her to that. It's insane. They're so mad about all of these things. There's slavery happening in the world today. Trafficking is the number one, the highest earning crime industry in the entire world. There are atrocities happening everywhere right now. There's slavery right now in the United States. There's forced labor and slavery in China, not to mention other countries, but nobody cares about that. Nobody wants to talk about that, but they still want to be mad over things that happened before they were even born. And I personally don't like that. I would rather spend my time talking about things that are productive, talking about how we can fix things that are happening right now. But they don't want to do that. They just want to sit around and complain about atrocities that happened in the past. Anyway, so that was interesting. And I think the monarchy and period just doesn't really have power anymore. It's just sort of a symbol of tradition. And somebody I think that people looked up to. She kind of held things together. She was not a political person. She actually, I don't think, she never even voted for a political party. She never talked about politics. She never took a side. She was really just a symbol of unity and someone that people could look up to for strength and for, I don't know, comfort, tradition. Figurehead. Thank you. Yeah, she was a figurehead. That's basically all she was. And they are putting so much on her. It's wild. It's crazy. And I actually think all of the people that are celebrating her passing and are excited that she's gone because she's symbolism of the West, I think those are people are without. And I actually feel kind of bad for them, because when I was going down my little rabbit hole again, I'm not like simping for the monarchy either, or advocating them. I don't even know that much about the monarchy, and personally, I would prefer a meritocracy. I kind of don't like the idea that you're just born into something and now you are that thing. I'd rather you earn that thing, and like I said, in a meritocracy. So I'm not, again, it's not a defense of the monarchy, but there is something kind of traditional. I don't know. But it is what it is. Anyway. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about Queen Elizabeth? I don't think so. Okay, now I wanted to. I'm trying to keep. See, I try to keep stories positive. No, I think that I think learning about. Oh, okay. I was reading that comment. I wanted to make sure I could read the whole thing because I couldn't read it out loud. But Braxton just commented, yeah, I'm black. And of course, we need to obviously not forget what happened in the past and talk about it. And we should never forget, but we also shouldn't use it as a crutch to not move forward. I totally agree with that. And it's almost, it makes me think of, she looked great firing a machine gun. Oh, yes. She's just a cool lady. That's why I'm like, she's such a cool lady. She's almost like a grandmother. You know, you learn things from your grandmother. That's kind of what she reminds me of. And it just makes me sad, especially for young girls. Because who do we have in the U.S.? We have Kim Kardashian? Beyonce? Michelle Obama? I don't know. But when people dwell on the past, I often think of this. I think of, so a kid, let's say my dad committed a heinous crime. My dad committed murder and is in prison for life. You wouldn't blame me for his crimes, even though I'm his next of kin. I'm literally his daughter, and I knew him in my lifetime. He committed murder. You wouldn't condemn me. You wouldn't call me a murderer because my father sinned. Actually, you would probably have sympathy for me. It's like, so now in modern day, you can be related to people that commit heinous crimes and no one is blaming you for that crime. Yet that's exactly what we're doing with all of this stuff. That's how you know that the people that use these things are completely disingenuous. I'm not reading that one out loud. Anyway, let's talk about the southern border because, oh man. So Greg Abbott and Doug Ducey. Doug Ducey is the governor. They decided they're getting overrun by migrants, so they decided to give people that are crossing the border the option. Would you like to go to Washington, D.C.? Would you like to go to New York City? Those are sanctuary cities. We'll provide you the transportation because we are running out of resources. So they gave them those options, and you have the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams. Now all of a sudden, they only have a few thousand. There's border towns in Texas that get up to 10,000 people a week coming through their towns. They got just a few thousand. You have Muriel Bowser declaring a state of emergency in Washington, D.C., asked for federal help, was denied federal help. So now they're setting up like an emergency system where they're getting people in and out. You had a councilwoman who, by the way, was very pro open borders, very pro, we are a sanctuary city. That's what we do. We welcome everyone. Oh, you're a sanctuary city? We're a border town. We're getting overrun. The government isn't helping us either. Why don't you help us? And shouldn't they be excited to do it? Shouldn't they be just over the moon to do that? But they are not. Now they're saying Texas is making us a border town. This is a crisis that was started by the governor of Texas and the governor of Arizona. No, it is not. It was started by Joe Biden. They didn't ask for this. And they're being overrun. So here you go. And it is absolutely beautiful because what you're seeing, I wonder if I can find this council lady. What you're seeing in real time with what happened in DC. So there was a council lady, I cannot remember her name. I'm trying to pull it up. If I can find it, I'll play it for you. Who was very pro sanctuary city, who is the one that said, we are not a border town. Greg Abbott and Doug Ducey are turning us into border towns. Okay, but you're a sanctuary city. Those border towns are not sanctuary cities. That's not their policy. They never said that they were pro open borders. That is all you. And you can literally, the councilwoman, she's sitting there. It's a press conference. She's talking. She's saying, we can't handle this. You can literally see just the fear in her eye. Just I don't know exactly what it was. It was almost like, it was like in real time you are seeing that they are being exposed for excuse my language, the bullshit that comes out of their mouths in real time. And you know that she knew it when she was saying it. Yeah, I'm a fake, I'm a hack, I actually don't mean what I say. Because if I did mean what I said, then I would be welcoming these people with open arms. I would say, you know what? Bring us more. Bring us more. We are a sanctuary city. You're saying you're being overwhelmed. You can't handle this. Let us help you. Bring us more. We want to help people. That's why we're a sanctuary city. Do you see them saying that? No. No. Tacoma, Washington. I can't find her. It was so funny, and I felt so embarrassed for this woman because people were putting her tweets back to back. She had a tweet saying, we're a sanctuary city, border walls are racist, or whatever she said. A year ago, 2 years ago, however, now, we are not a border town. She literally said we are not a border town. Greg Abbott is making us a border town. You kind of are a border town, though, because you said you were a sanctuary city, and you're a proud sanctuary city. And here's another thing. So Muriel Bowser is setting up this basically like emergency task force where she is going to get people help and get them services so that they can get on their feet, right? When the migrants take a bus to Washington, D.C., they get dropped off at Union Station. They get off Union Station, and I guess they meet whoever they're going to meet to give them whatever they're going to give them. I don't know. If you look at Union Station in Washington, D.C., the exterior of Union Station is surrounded by tents. It's a tent encampment. This is how messed up the U.S. is. So, you can cross the border illegally, and we welcome you in. You get a free bus ride to Washington, D.C. You get out. There's tents everywhere from people that are homeless, but you get all of these resources. I think they are allocating, yes, this is correct. $10 million will be spent in Washington, D.C., helping these migrants get services or help or shelter or whatever it is that they need, or moved to wherever it else is that they're going. Yeah, $3 million. And you know what else? I was watching the Daily Caller earlier today, and this is what I would like to know from Republicans, because they keep saying, we're going to take back the House, we're going to take back the Senate, we're going to rebuild the wall, we're going to put back in place the remain in Mexico, we're going to do all these things. What about the people that you allowed in, and we don't know who they are or where they are or anything? What about those 3 million people? What are you going to do about them? Do you have a plan for enforcement and removal if, someone has a criminal record, or what is your plan? So that's what I would like to know from Republicans is, okay, you take back the House, you take back the Senate, what's your plan? Because they keep complaining about it, but I don't hear their plan moving forward. Because there's still a few million people in our country since Biden took office, and we don't know who they are. And this has nothing to do... This has nothing to do with what the left will try to do is make it a race thing. And if you are for border security, you are a racist, basically. They will make it about race. But you have people coming from all over the world. You had Russians coming through Yuma, Arizona. People coming from the country of Georgia. They are coming from all over the world to the southern border. And that's the truth. So in DC, they're actually also in this program with this $10 million that they're spending to help everyone that is being dropped off at Union Station. They are going to get, they need interpretation services. And they have to get people that speak Russian, Mandarin, obviously Spanish, all kinds of languages, because that's the reality of who's coming across our border. They're coming from all over the world. Yeah, but that was actually that was such a genius thing that Greg Abbott did, and they're starting to send people to Chicago right now. It was such a genius thing that Greg Abbott did because even though, like, the people in Congress they're not necessarily, DC has a mayor that is not a Congress. She's not making the policies. Good morning. Holy cow. What time is it where you are? So the people that made these policies are not necessarily the mayor of DC, are not necessarily the city council of DC. It's the people in Washington, but they live in DC. So they are dropping the people off exactly where these policymakers live so that they can see the reality of their policies. And basically what Muriel Bowser is saying, what this council member is saying is like, we actually don't want to be a border town. We're too good for that. We want the people in Texas and Arizona to be border towns. We want them to get the brunt of these policies that we don't make, but we support. That's basically what they're saying. They're saying, we are too good for this. This is not what we do. That's basically what they said. And it's hilarious because it was so transparent. That's why it was genius. They cried uncle so quick. They literally just got a few thousand people and are having press conferences talking about a state of emergency, asking for federal help. Again, they don't make these policies, but they support these policies. Speaking of Chicago, it's a huge virtue signal. Was that Glenn? It's a huge virtue signal. And what you could see in her eyes is she was being caught in real time in her virtue signal. Her mouth was saying one thing. Her eyes were saying, yeah, I'm busted. I'm a hypocrite. Look at me. I'm a big hypocrite and this is humiliating. That's what her eyes were telling me. Support it as long as they don't have to deal with it. Exactly. They support it because they know it sounds really good, right? It sounds good. It sounds progressive. Open borders. We love people until you actually experience what open borders are. Now it's not so cool. Safe. Oh, yeah. I'm just waiting for something to come up. We have to talk about this. This is insanity. I thought this was a joke when I first heard about it. And I'm sure you heard about it a little bit because it was on, I know Tucker Carlson talked about it. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, I'm just pulling up an article. So this is the Safety Act. I actually saw a few TikToks about this by people that aren't even political, and they're calling it the Purge. That's what it sounds like. So the Safety Act is going to be implemented. Here, I'll just read this for you. On January 1st, 2023, it is estimated that more than half of the This is like infuriating. On January 1st, 2023, it is estimated that more than half of the inmates in the Winnebago County Jail will walk out the door. Approximately 400 criminal... Stop it. No, I'm not buying a subscription. Okay, sorry. Approximately 400 criminal defendants will be released back into our community because our Illinois legislators passed the Safety Act back in 2020. By the way, this is a local opinion piece, but it has some facts in here that I know are true because I've already looked it up. They passed it in the pre-dawn hours of a lame duck legislative session in an attempt to circumvent the democratic process. They were successful, and so on January 1st, cash bail will be eliminated through the state of Illinois. The public has a right to know what this law entails. It is practical shortcomings and the serious negative impact it will have on public safety for the rest of the citizens in Winnebago County. I think I'm saying that right. Winnebago? Does anyone live in Illinois? I hope I'm saying that right. Interesting name for a county. While there are numerous issues with the new law, perhaps the most problematic is that it only allows for even the possibility of pretrial detention for a small subset of crimes and under very limited circumstances, regardless of the defendant's risk to reoffend or their known danger to the community. In so doing, the law eliminates prosecutorial. Every time I do a live, words that I know and can read, I can't say them. Where are we? And judicial discretion when determining defendants should be released back into the community while their case is pending. In a bond or detention hearing, judges are presented with the facts underlying the charges against a defendant, that person's criminal history, as well as an evidence-based risk assessment particular to each defendant. With that vital information, the judges of our community, using their discretion and experience, are truly best positioned to balance the important interests at stake and decide if the person should be detained pending trial. The Illinois Supreme Court has held that when determining bail, a judge's decision must balance the right of the accused to be free on bail against the right of the general public to receive reasonable protective considerations by the court. The Safety Act, however, does away with all of that. So here was my thing about the Safety Act. I was like, okay, maybe we're fear-mongering because a judge still gets the discretion on whether or not someone will be released. So, fun fact about me, when I was 21, I got arrested. I was charged with DUI, and that sounds really bad, but let me tell you what happened. By the way, I'm very against drunk driving. Don't do it. It's horrible. It's awful. It kills people. Don't do it. But I was 21. I didn't really know my body. I didn't really know how the alcohol goes in your body and stuff like that. So I was out with a few friends. It was like a Saturday night. It was during the summer. And we went to a bar or two, had some drinks, and then went back to a friend's house. And we were kind of just hanging out there. We were kind of just hanging out for a little while. Like, I think they were playing like a card game. They kept drinking. I stopped drinking, actually. The whole time we were there, I wasn't drinking. I was actually on the porch by myself reading magazines. And the reason I stopped drinking is because I wanted to go home. I was never drunk throughout the whole night, but I was like, I had a few drinks. I need to drink some water. I'll read magazine for an hour or two, and then I'll go home. And I had some friends that asked me if I would drop them off. I think it was like maybe midnight at this point, 1 a.m. I don't know. It was late. But I hadn't even had anything to drink for about an hour or two. I don't remember. Maybe an hour and a half, whatever. It was somewhere between that time. So a few of my friends were like, hey, can you take us home on your way back? And I was like, okay. Anyway, I take them home. I went down this like curvy little like downtown road. And I kind of like overcorrected a little bit. And I hit two parked cars. No one was hurt. Everyone was fine. But I totaled my car. And I think I totaled another car. And we weren't going fast. It was like 25 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour. But anyway, I got breathalyzed on the scene and I still had alcohol in my system. I was over the legal limit. I didn't feel drunk, but your body, I'm a tiny person. your body takes a while to get all of that alcohol out. And you don't realize, you might not think you're drunk or feel drunk, but you can still, your motor skills might be a little bit slower or off. So I always say, like, I overcorrected. I remember everything, but I probably could have corrected correctly if maybe I didn't have that alcohol in my system. Anyway, down the road till you can't no more. Anyway, they booked me, and I was actually really cooperative, and I called my mom as soon as because this was like less than a mile from my house. I called my mom. She came to the scene, and she got there like right when the cops were getting there, and they arrested me. She actually followed us to the police station. I was like, I'm sorry, Mom. They didn't even put me in handcuffs because I was pretty chill. So anyway, we get to the police station. They book me. So you have to get booked. And then they take me to see the magistrate, which is basically the judge. And he decides whether I'm going to go home or whether they want me to stay in jail. He let me... You blew a .40. Oh my gosh. Well, actually, this is what you should know about DUI. So what they do, and this is, I think, another thing that helped me in my situation, they give you a breathalyzer on the scene, which I don't think you have to take. Don't listen to me. I don't know. They give you one on the scene, and then they give you one while they're booking you back at the police station. They give you another one, and this is there's a reason for this, because they want to see, did it go down or did it go up? Because if your blood alcohol goes down, that means you hadn't drank for a little while. If your blood alcohol goes up, that means you literally just had a drink. So that means that you could have taken a shot, and maybe that alcohol hadn't really hit your system yet. And so if it goes up at the gas station, that is pretty telling rather than if it goes down. I'm sure you can understand why. Anyway, they booked me. I go and I sit and I talk to the magistrate. He lets me go home. And I think one of the reasons he let me go home is because I had my mom there. And like, I called her and they were like, okay, she's a good kid. She just got in trouble. She just made a mistake. But yeah, that's what you do. So you get arrested, and then you go, they book you, and then you see a judge, and that judge either lets you go or says you're going to be in jail. This is your cash bail, blah, blah, blah. So, and then you get your court date, right? So basically what happens is what this is, without cash bail, without the magistrate doing that, you can commit any crime, and I'll give you the list of crimes for this. You get booked, and then, maybe you just committed robbery. You get arrested, you get booked, and so now you finish your booking, which takes like an hour or two. I can't remember how long it took, but it's not too long. You finish your booking, you see the judge or the magistrate. Is that the same thing? I don't know. And they tell you whether you can go home or not. So basically now what's going to happen in Illinois is you do your crime. Let's say I just robbed someone, and then I get booked. I see the judge, and they're like, yeah, your court date is blah, 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 blah. See you then. And you're out on the street again. And that's what we're seeing. That's the problem we're seeing with all of these high-profile crimes. We have these crimes being committed, and people are looking at the criminal history, and they're like, why was this person on the street in the first place? That's why this is crazy that this is happening right now, but it looks like it was actually passed a year ago. Anyway, let's read more about this. Sorry, I went off on a thing. Under the new law, this is the Safety Act in Illinois, entire categories of crime, such as aggravated battery, robberies, burglaries, hate crimes, aggravated DUIs, vehicular homicide, drug-induced homicides, all drug offenses, including delivery of fentanyl and trafficking cases, are not eligible for detention no matter the severity of the crime or defendant's risk to a specific person or the community unless the people prove by clear and convincing evidence that the person has a high likelihood of willful fight and to avoid prosecution. Additionally, in cases involving non-probationable forcible felonies, such as murder and armed robbery, judges may only detain a defendant under the new law if the prosecution proves by clear and convincing evidence the defendants possess a real and present threat to the safety of a specific identifiable person or persons. So you basically now have to argue that this person is a danger to a specific person, not just society as a whole, but a specific individual, and you have to prove that. Imagine the defendant who murdered his wife, to whom he no longer poses a threat, being released because of this ridiculously limited legal standard. Even more absurd, judges may no longer issue a warrant when a defendant fails to come to court. There's just so many good ideas in this article that it's hard to comprehend, just all the great ideas. Oh man, where did I go? Where did I leave off is what I meant. Okay, instead, an absent defendant must be served with a court order asking them again to appear and then fail to appear a second time before a warrant may be issued. This convoluted series of steps will not only delay justice for victims and strike fear into the hearts of witnesses, it will place an unnecessary burden on law enforcement to find defendants who they've already arrested and serve them with a piece of paper asking them nicely to come to court. And eliminating virtually all accountability for defendants, the new law severely impedes the orderly administration of justice. One can hear the wheels of justice beginning to grind to a halt. I'm reading an opinion piece, if you haven't noticed. Sometimes I like them, they're a little entertaining. The bottom line, by the way, I've verified the facts in this opinion piece because I've been reading about this all week. The bottom line, the law will allow dangerous individuals to roam our streets. It will deter victims and witnesses from reporting crimes, and it will make it more difficult to prosecute those alleged crimes. Oh, and as is customary in Illinois, the new law is an unfunded mandate requiring the county to spend even more money on the criminal justice system without any financial support from the state. Come January 1st, our criminal justice system will become much more expensive and much less effective. So, what can we do about it? Hi. Well, okay. What can we do about it? Let's see if... Who wrote this? Jay Hanley. Let's see if Jay Hanley has some solutions. Memphis is a lab, for sure. Memphis is a lab that, yep. You know what's interesting? California, I know we've talked about this before because this is another criticism I have of George Gascon in Los Angeles, is that the voters on the 2020 ballot in California, there was a measure that the voters voted on, whether or not we wanted to end cash bail. The voters of California said, no, we do not want to end cash bail. So that was struck down by the voters. So that kind of just goes to show you that something like zero cash bail, even in a progressive state like California, is not a popular thing among most people. And it seems like they kind of sneakily pushed this through, and this wasn't voted on by the people. Okay. So what can we do about it? I really want to know these solutions. Okay, first, the effective date of the law should be delayed at least 6 months so it can see the light of scrutiny and debate outside of the shadow of a bygone legislative lame duck session. Agreed. In hastily passing the law, our legislators failed to heed the warning of the Illinois Supreme Court Commission on pretrial practices, which stated in its final report, simply eliminating cash bail at the outset without first implanting meaningful reforms and dedicating adequate resources to allow evidence-based risk assessment and supervision would be premature. Slow clap, yes. But to me, that's common sense. Okay, so once delayed, our legislator should start over. Our state would do well to model its pretrial fairness law after New Jersey's 2017 move to a cashless bail system. Unlike our new law, New Jersey allows judges to detain persons for any crime where the prosecution proves the defendant, 1, will not appear in court, 2, possesses a danger to any other person or the community, or 3, will obstruct or attempt to obstruct justice, or threaten, injure, intimidate, or attempt to threaten, injure, or intimidate a prospective witness or juror. While New Jersey's law has its detractors, many have found it appropriately balances a defendant's presumption of innocence against the court's interest in a fair and orderly administration of the justices and community safety. Okay, that I could see that. It is certainly a much better law than the one that is currently set to take effect here in Illinois. I agree with that. I, along with other Illinois state's attorneys, oh, this is a state attorney? Oh. So this is actually a state attorney. I didn't know I was going to talk about this at first, so I just found this opinion piece and was going to go through it and just sort of give you my my opinion on everything. So this Jay Hanley is actually a Winnebago County state attorney. So, all right. I, along with Illinois state attorneys, have requested the Illinois General Assembly adopt a statute similar to New Jersey's and continue to allow judges to use their discretion on behalf of the communication they represent in detention hearings. While a few of our local legislators are listening, thus far our requests have not been acted upon. Let's hope that the action can be taken during this post-election veto session in early December. Please call your legislators, advocate for such action, but don't call me or the sheriff. We aren't responsible for letting over half the jail population walk out the door on January 1st. So that's what's also going to happen. So it's not just going to be new offenders. It's going to be people that have offended in the past that now are eligible for this new system. And I understand, I actually do understand the criticism of the bail system, because if you think about it, if you're someone that has a lot of money, like Paul Pelosi, for example, he had $5,000 bail. $5,000 is nothing to Paul Pelosi. But let's say, you're even a middle-class American right now, like most people, a lot of people right now don't have $5,000 in the bank, which is great, but it's true. A lot of people don't. There was something that came out, it was right before the pandemic, and it said most Americans wouldn't be able to handle like a surprise $400 emergency. So I do get that. There's obviously an unfair advantage. I get that, because the whole point of bail is to make it the whole point of bail is to make it difficult to get out, is the point of it. But that doesn't work if you have lots and lots and lots of money and you're Paul Pelosi. So, but isn't that everything in life? I mean, I don't know. And this is my problem with what they do with criminal justice reform. They don't think about things. It's so reactionary, and they don't set things up. Like, I totally agree. Like, we can have this talk. We can have this debate about criminal justice reform and stuff like that, but we need to talk about it and actually put a plan in before we just have these reactionary policies. Like the defund the police. All these cities just defunded their police. And the whole argument for defunding the police is we want to, take funding. Oh, thank you so much. Wall Street Tech. Systems will lose money. Systems will lose money. They'll keep cash bail. Yeah, so that's a really, really good point. There's so I used to live in Denver, Colorado, and I lived close to where the courthouse was, like the main courthouse. And every like little side street by the courthouse was a bail bonds place. Like it's a whole little bail bond, that's a whole little industry. I mean, there were so many of them. So what's going to happen to those places? That's interesting. Yeah, but it is a money system. I think it almost seems like what they're trying to do is this is like a really, this to them is like kind of a socially acceptable way to save money. I think some of them think that too. It was Fetterman, who's running for senator in Pennsylvania. That secret recording came out of him saying we could save, what did he say? He said like he gave like a large sum of money. I almost want to say 900 million, but that sounds too high. 9 million, 90 million, I don't know. There was a 9 and then there was a million. And he was like, we could save all of this money by letting a third of the prison population out and still keep our community safe. So I sometimes, I wonder if the motivation is to save money and do it in a way that's kind of like socially trendy at the time, because right in 2020, that's what was kind of defund the police, criminal justice reform. That was sort of the political Overton window on the left at that point in time. So these were popular policies. And you know what? It's really funny though. It's the same thing with the open borders. That was the little Overton window of the left. Open borders, sanctuary cities, and now that narrative is being destroyed in Washington, D.C. And you're seeing this criminal justice reform narrative being destroyed by Illinois, by Memphis, Tennessee, by Los Angeles, by San Francisco, by New York, all of these things. And I don't think this is going to happen. I think it's getting so much public scrutiny. And Tucker Carlson had a really, really good segment. I think it was, please do yourself a favor and watch this segment. It was Tucker Carlson. I think it was his show last night. And he was actually talking about the councilwoman in D.C. He was talking about crime. And that, I think, is the number one thing on a lot of people's minds. Crime has no political party. Nobody wants to feel unsafe in their neighborhood. Why does cooked lamb smell like a washed dog? I don't know. Good question. I don't know what cooked lamb smells like. I don't eat lamb. I don't think this is going to go through. I don't think they're going to allow it because people are already looking. I don't know, that maybe I'm being too hopeful. I don't know. But everyone is already looking at Chicago. Not only that, Chicago is going to start getting busloads of migrants. So that's awesome. One more problem, one more layer on top of that. And here's another thing about illegal immigration. Sorry, I'm jumping. But what people don't talk about, I've told you guys before that I used to work at it was a state-run psychiatric hospital for children and adolescents. And I was actually here in Virginia. It's in Stanton, Virginia, though. And they're actually having a really hard time finding employees, like a lot of other places. So they have a staffing shortage. There's a lawsuit going on because this is crazy. So if you're a state-run mental health facility, you cannot turn people away. You have to take everyone because you're not private, you're state, you're government funded. You cannot turn people away. So our facility was unique. It was called it's still called, I'm sorry. It was 14 hours ago on Fox. Really, really good. So our facility, it was called the Commonwealth Center for Children and Adolescents. You can look it up. But because we were the only state-funded psychiatric hospital for children and adolescents in the state, essentially, we could not turn anyone away. But recently, they had this rare circumstance where they had to start turning patients away because they didn't have the staff to be able to take them in. Isn't that sad? Anyway, so I worked for them for a few years, a long time ago, and we were getting a new patient in, and the new patient was a boy who was 17 and was in the country illegally. So we had no information on this person. I didn't know. We only knew what he told us. So we knew the person's age and name. And I think he was from Mexico. Yeah, he was from Mexico. That's all we knew. We had no file, no medical history, no mental health history, no family history, no criminal history. We had nothing. And this is a residential facility for children and adolescents. Keep that in mind. And usually what would happen whenever we would get a new patient, the very first thing I would do is read their file. And some of these kids, it was really sad. They would have files like this thick because they've been in the system their whole lives. I would read their files because I wanted to know, okay, what's their family history? What's their trauma history? What's their medical history? What's their mental health history? Is this the first facility they've been to? Like, I want to know all of those things because that's going to help me work with this kid and give this kid the best care that I can. Australia and Scotland, hello. So that's what I do when I get my kids, when we would get new patients, which were our kids. But this person didn't have anything because he was here illegally. So anyway, we had him for a few weeks, and I started to get really uncomfortable around this person. And keep in mind, we worked with people that are mentally ill, so I'm used to very odd and extreme and even violent behaviors. That's very normal to me. But there was something very quiet and sinister. Ask anyone that's ever worked in a psychiatric hospital. You're not afraid of the person who's kind of crazy and yelling and saying outlandish stuff. You're more creeped out by the person who's very quiet and very calculated and very polite and just kind of in the corner. That's the person that you keep your eye on. That's the person you keep your eye on everyone, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, we had him for a few weeks, and I just started, I don't know, I was seeing things that were just really uncomfortable, that made me uncomfortable. There were just things, and I talked to my supervisor, and she felt the same way. We didn't know what it was, but we just didn't trust this person. There was something off about him, and he really liked to hang out with some of our, like, younger girls, so we're always, like, right there around him. And one night, he actually got all of our kids to incite a riot, which means that it was like about their bedtime and they all came out of their rooms and they're tearing things off the wall and throwing things and coming after the staff. And we had to, it was all of our kids and we had limited staff. Anyway, long story short, this was unprecedented, but we had to call the police to come and take him away, which does not happen. But that's how serious the situation is, and we are set up to deal with dangerous situations. That's why we don't call the cops. Like, we're the enforcement. But he had to be taken away. A week or two after he was taken away, maybe it was longer than that. This was a really long time ago. Come to find that, like I said, we didn't have papers on him, but we started getting papers after he left. And come to find, he was over 18. He wasn't a minor. He was an adult. And I don't know if he committed the crime, but he had a very serious, very violent charge on him in Mexico. So I don't know if he came to the U.S. to escape that charge. I don't know why he was here, but so highly, highly inappropriate. This person was placed with kids in the U.S. And this is what people don't think about when they think about open border. When people come in, but I think about this place too, because I'm like, this is a state facility. Like, you have to take people. If they're already understaffed, like, all of these migrants are going to all these different places. Like, they're going to need services. And then what's going to happen when, like, a bigger influx of people are coming in and you don't have information? By the way, you don't know their vaccination status either. Like, you don't know anything. You know, you have to have certain vaccines to be in school, to be inside facilities, to work at that job. I had to get certain vaccines, like, regularly. So, you don't know anything about, you have no papers, you don't know their history, their criminal history, their medical history. Yeah. This, I say kid. He wasn't a kid. He was an adult. But there was it was very sinister. And our overlords, like the head doctors and stuff, they were just like, it's okay, don't worry, we got to keep blah, 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 blah. Like, so we just kind of dealt with it the best we could. And then it ended in that night. And that was really scary. But that could have been avoided if we actually had papers on this person and we knew how old this person is. This person never would have been placed with children, with minors. And some of them were traumatized that night because, it's all fun and games until they actually see something kind of scary and they see someone being taken away by police. They see their staff struggling to keep control. There was, I think, one girl who actually had an emergency discharge. Her parents came and got her, which is really sad because she could have benefited maybe from staying at the facility for another week or two to get more treatment. But instead, she discharged to her parents and didn't get treatment anymore because of this person that we had to take in. And, that's really sad. So that's another aspect of illegal immigration that people don't talk about a lot. And what you need to understand about some of these politicians that are making these policies, they are very, very... People love to say, like, this person is evil. How could they support this? They're evil. Some of them, honestly, you guys, they're just really, really dumb. They've never worked on the front line. They've been in school and then they get out of school and they go, I don't know. But they are just not very smart. And they go with policies because they think that's what people want to hear. They think that's what's popular at the time. They think that's what's going to get them votes at the time. They think that's what's going to win them elections, but they are not serious. They don't actually know the implications of the policies that they support publicly. Just like the councilwoman in DC, who was all about sanctuary cities, was so proud that her city was a sanctuary city. Now all of a sudden she's dealing with the reality of the policy that she supports. And you could see the deer in the headlight, I am a hypocrite look in her eye. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad I'm not her. That's gotta suck. Glad I'm not you. Two clowns, yeah. That's what you need to know. Some of these people just really are not smart. And we think just because you're... Obviously, we know now, but you think just because you have a certain title or a certain role or you have certain credentials, you think that person is going to be smart. That's not always the case. People don't always have common sense. Anyway, I'm really interested to see what is going to happen. Book sense, not common sense. Yeah, that's very true. It's so funny too because when I was I worked at two facilities like that. And one facility, it was so funny because you could kind of see the difference. Like I did direct care when I was really young because I just had energy and I wanted to hang out with the kids. Direct care is really cool because I got to do a lot of cool things. I could take them to movies and basketball games and football games and play putt-putt or arcades. I got to do all that stuff. But then I also had to be responsible for their safety and, make sure, discipline and all that stuff. So it was a really cool job, but it taught me a lot. And I'm so glad that I did that because it really showed me the difference between, the sort of the mentality of the direct care staff that were actually on the front lines working with people and like the therapist and stuff like that. And I would watch my kids just manipulate the crap out of their therapist all the time because it's this intelligentsia class that is really disconnected to the reality of just every day. They're so disconnected from that. And I actually witnessed that working in the hospital with like sort of the therapists and the psychologists and the psychiatrists. They were sort of like kind of just out of the loop. They were in the loop, obviously, with their in particular case, but out of the loop. And then I would watch the kids just go in and manipulate them. I'd be like, I don't know, 5 candy bars would really make me feel happy right now. Or, can we go here? That would just really help me. They would just manipulate the crap out of them. But this is a concept that I think is really difficult for not all progressives and liberals, but the ones that are like defund the police, open borders. This is a concept that I think is very difficult for them. We push boundaries. Like, kids push boundaries, criminals push boundaries. Like, all of this like criminal justice reform that's happening in Los Angeles, a Snickers for brain power? Yeah. Especially criminals and kids, they have one thing in common. They are wired to push boundaries. Criminals push boundaries. They want to see what they can get away with and how they can get away with. And there are some criminals, and I learned this with my kids too. There are some criminals that know the system better than you or I. They know the system better than people that work in the system, because that's how they get away with things. They know the system, they understand the system, they take advantages of the system, they push boundaries, and they commit crime. And these dum-dums that are making these policies don't really understand that concept, or they don't care. Anyway, thank you so much. I got to get off a little bit early. I'll actually be back. I might be live tomorrow. I'm not sure. But I'll be back next week with... I will be back next week, and I'm also going to have sort of regular videos like the ones that I used to make a long time ago, and I'll keep with the lives and stuff like that. So I finally have more time, and I can make regular videos again, and I'm really excited. Because there's so many things I want to talk about, and there wasn't enough time in the day. Thank you very much, you guys. That was a fun live. I might see you tomorrow. I might not. And have a really good weekend. I'll be back next week. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining. All right. Bye. Thank you. Ciao. I can't turn it off. Awkward. Football tomorrow. Who's playing? Everyone. Can we... Thank you very much. I was just reading your goodbyes. Oh, you missed it. I might be back tomorrow. Oh, tonight Dallas is. You have a great weekend too. Oh, thank you very much, Dave. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Kathy. All right, bye, you guys. Y'all have a great evening. Stay safe. Don't get too crazy.